Okay. And I guess at one point, you actually got caught uh, for like a couple $1 million with a Pinnacle Bank Corp.
Yeah, Pinnacle Bank Corp out of Chicago. They caught us with a couple million. One of my brokers had been using the same set of canceled checks. Well, the canceled checks, you know, for all of his clients. And one of the underwriters there caught it. And then they pulled all the documents and then they gave it to the owner, and the owner called me and he was like, listen, see, I don't think I used his real name in the book. I think I called him Gary something else. But anyway, so Gary called me, and he called me, and he was like, look, we got an issue. And one of your brokers has, put a bunch of loans through here, and they pulled all the files, and it was a couple $1 million worth of loans. And I remember saying, he's like, look, what are we gonna do about this? I was like, look, man, if you're thinking at the end of this conversation that I'm gonna cut you a check for $1 million or a couple million, you're wrong. That's just not gonna happen. I don't have it. So we need to figure out how to fix this problem. Well, I mean, he basically said, look, I don't want the FBI looking through my files. He said, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead. They'd already sold $1 million worth of loans to Household Bank. So they knew they'd already sold $1 million worth of bad paper. Then he said to me, look, we're going to sell this with our next package to Household Bank. If they come back on us, you got to promise me you'll help us get rid of them. And I was like, yeah, of course I'll help you get rid of them if they come back on you, which there was very little likelihood that was going to happen. So he said, okay, no problem. And he even came a couple of weeks later. He flew into Tampa, took us all out to lunch. I mean, straight fraud, knew it was fraud, had no problem with it.
Okay. So at the end of the day, this company of yours ended up embezzling around $40 million.
Well, I
How?
wouldn't say embezzling. They were bad loans. Embezzling makes it seem they were bad loans. Embezzling is like I work for a company and I'm stealing them. They were bad. They were fraudulent loans. Yeah, the FBI estimated there was about $40 million in bad loans. Yeah.
Okay, so this company of yours,
distinction. It's a little distinction.
Was involved in $40 million in bad loans. How much money were you putting aside for yourself at this time?
I mean, I wasn't. I was reinvesting the money, and I wasn't making $40 million. Guys are getting, they're getting their broker fees. I'm getting a part of the broker fees. I'm in the middle of a divorce. I think at that point I had done a bunch of loans, and someone who used to work for me had gotten caught running what's called a straw man scam. And she and her husband got in trouble, and they wore a wire on me. So the FBI came in and they were going to indict me. And I pled guilty because I'd lied on an application. They had me hands down. They had me on tape. They have all the documents. And they've got 2 people ready to testify against me. So I take a plea for 3 years probation. So at the whole time this is happening, we go for a couple years, and then this happens. And now I'm about to lose. I can't own the mortgage company anymore. So I'm about to I'm losing the mortgage company. I'm getting a divorce. My wife wants a chunk of money. I've got to find a place to live. It's suddenly all this. There was nobody really being put aside. It's not like I had $100,000, $200,000 aside, and it's not like I was making that kind of money. And we're talking whatever, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. And then I'm also buying houses and flipping houses. So the money's always in flux. You might have a couple $100,000 one day. A week later, you're down to $3,000 because you bought 3 houses to flip. It's real estate. It's up and down as far as the liquidity is concerned.
Right, because you mentioned your divorce. At one point, you married Kayla Burgos.
Right.
You guys had a son, and you and your wife were basically doing these fraud mortgages together.
Yeah, she'll kill me if anybody watches this right now. Okay. I talk to her like every couple of days. Anyway, she we bought when we got married, we bought We ended up in about a year, we acquired about 55 rental units. And the majority of those loans were, they were all fraud. The majority. They were all fraudulent loans. So they were fraudulent loans. She and I get a divorce, or getting a divorce. She keeps all the property. She takes all the house. She takes everything. I'm starting over from scratch.
Okay. And I guess when the FBI caught you, you agreed to plead guilty if they dropped charges against her.
Right. Well, all the loans that they had caught me with were in her name. They were her loans. So I had brokered the loans, and I hadn't brokered the loans. The mortgage broker that used to work for me had brokered the loans. So she had all the documents. She opened her own company, and I ran those loans through her company. They weren't even through my company. If I didn't have if they hadn't worn a wire on me, I could have stepped back and said, I don't know what they did. I don't know what she did. That's their problem. But they had me on tape. And the fact of the matter is I needed to plead guilty. This is my wife at the time, the mother of my child. So, and there wasn't really any chance I was going to go to prison. No money had been lost. There was no potential loss. But I just didn't see that I could go to jail for that.
Right. But in the process of you doing this, you're buying these houses with fraudulent loans, and then you've created basically a situation where after about a year, you're raising the price of houses in Tampa. At first, they started around 50, 60,000. By the time you're done with all your shenanigans, they're at like 200, 250,000. Is that right?
Yeah. After I lost the mortgage company, when I went on federal probation, you get to that point, it's like, well, what do you do now? Do you sell everything, start over, start another career? Can't work as a mortgage broker, can't own a mortgage company. I still have bills to pay. So do I sell everything, claim bankruptcy, move into my parents' spare room? Or do I go, start continuing, just go straight fraud, continue to commit fraud? So, I clearly made the wrong decision, and I decided to go straight fraud. And I came up with a scheme where I would create false people, phantom identities, or they call them synthetic identities now. Back then, I just called them, they were phantom identities. And so I figured out how to create these fictional people with fake social security numbers, dates of birth, names, the whole thing. And I decided I was going to have them buy houses for $40,000. You buy a house for $30,000 or $40,000 back then in Ybor City, and then you record the value of the sale at like $190,000. So the whole market starts to shoot up through the roof, because suddenly there's these comparable sales everywhere. Instead of $50,000, they're comparable sales for $90,000. And I bought five of them in the name of some guy named James Red. Or the names of the people were like, most of them were like James Red, William Blue, Michael White, Lee Black, David Silver. So you've got a bunch of, remember the movie Reservoir Dogs? Right. So it was Reservoir Dogs. So I had just started naming everybody a color code system, which I thought was pretty cute. But it wasn't. When I got sentenced, the judge had no sense of humor about it. He didn't see the creativity at all.